driving down these beautiful back roads in Kentucky, and I've just come down through this really steep cut through the landscape and weaving my way down to what will be the bottom of the valley, and hopefully there's going to be a river down there. I'm now at a point in the day where I'm starting to think about where I want to spend the night, so now it's going to be a case of studying the map a little bit, and well, heck, we might just have found one. B Rock Campground. Let's go check it out. And it does look like there's a river here too. Okay. Alright, we'll get back to you. It turns out that B Rock Campground had just opened for the season, though presently it was empty. A very nicely laid out campground for sure, with plenty of space between sites. There were fire pits, picnic tables and toilets, but no running water yet, as nighttime temperatures were still well below freezing. Each site was afforded riverfront views. I liked the location, but elected to forgo the $15 nightly camping fee by moving across the river and parking at one of the trailheads for the evening. That's the luxury of being self-contained, and I knew at this early point in the season there wouldn't be anyone coming around to question my choice. As full-time van living is now my prerogative, finding free places to stay for the night is high priority, and one must develop a keen sense for what is appropriate and hopefully legal. I spend a lot of time studying the map in detail as the day evolves, picking out what I believe to be fertile options. In essence, I have to remain open to the possibilities on the map and allow it to determine my destination for the day. For a lot of schedule-driven people, this will be counterintuitive and perhaps uncomfortable, but not knowing where your next night's resting place will be until you get there is a mindset. Really unexpected things happen when you are open to spontaneity. And after all, it's not the destination but the journey that counts. That said, I totally acknowledge that not everybody has the complete luxury of time to wander in this fashion. This method is simply meant to offer you an alternative option for travel and exploration. I will discuss maps and how to find cool places in more detail a little later. But for now though, it's back to B Rock, a little history and a trail hike. Well, I must say there's nothing like a pint of Murphy's at the end of a long, hard day's drive. Cheers. A 2.5 mile loop trail winds its way from the banks of the Rockcastle River up to an overlook on B Rock, which is said to have historically housed an enormous hive of bees, where honey reputedly dripped from the rocks. The meandering trail weaves through hardwood forests of beech, oak, hickory, tulip poplar, and closer to the river, sycamore. Sheer cliffs of exposed rock define the natural flanks of this gorge, carved out over the millennia by the erosional effects of the river. This and other areas like it in Kentucky are part of the larger Daniel Boone National Forest, which covers an area of over 700,000 acres. Around me, small streams percolate down ravines, and deep green moss clings to exposed rocks and the forest floor, a natural sponge for water retention. Decomposing leaf material in turn carpets the moss, adding an additional layer of protection and nutrient mass for the microbiome below. Other than the natural sounds of water, wind, and birds, it's quiet and free from the usual assault of sounds we unconditionally accept. This is the connection and experience I seek out in searching for unique locations and magical places along the way. So stay with me and I will show you a whole lot more. Mammoth Cave, Kentucky. I arrived here last night, set myself up in the parking lot, in the hopes that this morning at 8 o'clock, when the visitor center opens, that there will be some added tours today because everything is sold out. Though the ranger did indicate that the chances are good that they will lay on some additional tours and I might get a chance to get inside there. It's a big cave system, the largest in the world, so far anyway, with over 420 miles of surveyed tunnels and chambers and such. So it's a big cave system, and of course, as a visitor, you can only ever hope to see a very, very small snapshot. Having visited a number of caves throughout the world, I find them fascinating places. Structurally, sculpturally, geologically, and let's see what opportunities present themselves today. Keeping my fingers crossed. After much anticipation, my Mammoth Cave experience was sadly underwhelming. Huge, cavernous and extensive, yes, but visually uninspiring. It lacked the creative features I associated with truly magnificent caves, such as stalagmites, stalactites, drapery, crystals, rimstone dams, etc. They were just not present. So I left there and continued on with an exploration of the surrounding lands above ground. Further up here you'll start to see the just sheer volume of trees that were taken out by these winds. Just a week earlier, hurricane-force winds blew up from the south and devastated much of the state, causing widespread damage. The scenic Green River flows through Mammoth Cave National Park, and what better a way to spend a beautiful day than to go for a float. But first, an introduction to the pack raft. This is why it's called a pack raft. It can pack down into something that's relatively small and relatively light. Stick it in a backpack and off you go. Have some adventure. Options, options, options. Now the pack raft has this water seal zipper up front here, or actually at the rear. And what happens is you can store all of your gear inside the craft, so you're completely unencumbered when you're actually paddling. Additionally, I have something called a bow bag, which is just a small kind of day pack that I have on the front of the boat that is again waterproof. And I store things like food and water and camera, things like that. Things you're going to need and access with regularity, because obviously once things are stowed inside the boat and it is inflated, you don't want to have to be dipping back in there consistently throughout the day to, micromanage your stuff. So all your camping stuff, your food, your cooking equipment, sleeping bag, everything gets stored inside of the boat. So the one and only thing I'm taking with me today, as it's just a simple day trip, is my backpack here, which then I can stow the boat, the paddles, everything else inside of the backpack, jump on my motorcycle and head back here to meet the van. So let me get started here. I'm going to stow this backpack and begin the inflation. Once it's all zipped up, you are waterproof and ready to inflate. And all that takes is the external lung. Capture a nice big sack of air and begin the inflation process. If your boat is actually filled with all of your gear, you'd be surprised. It only takes maybe 12 of these sackfuls of air to fill this boat. It's rather quick. Obviously, if there's nothing much in there, it takes a little longer. but within 5 minutes you have a boat that's fully inflated and ready to go. Here you can see the inflated boat and the assembled paddle. The bow bag there, black bag, waterproof, has all the stuff that I need for the short journey down the river. Additionally, because this is a whitewater craft, I have a spray skirt here, which I'm going to put on. You know, it just keeps everything inside of the boat completely dry. And today I am wearing my full dry suit. It just means also that I can wear my street clothes underneath. I can be warm and comfortable and completely dry. So it was off out onto the river for a 3-hour leisurely paddle down a beautiful stretch of the green. At times there's quite a headwind on these big open stretches of water. Sometimes the current is taking me down. I'm not needing to paddle, it's moving fairly swiftly, and at other times my forward motion is completely counteracted by the wind. I can honestly say that though I've seen many bald eagles before, I've never seen a nest. Just magnificent. Oh, and there she goes. Boy, were we lucky. Well, it looks like our journey down the Green River today is fast coming to an end. But anyway, it's been a delightful float down this river. Some strong headwinds at times, but for the most part, very tranquil. Beautiful wildlife and a fabulous day. From Mammoth Cave, my onward route detoured slightly through the town of Bowling Green, which is home to the National Corvette Museum. Now, I will say that my interest in cars is nominal, but I do appreciate good design, and the classic old Corvettes for me have always been impressively stylish and eye-catching. Upon entering the museum, and for an additional fee of course, you can purchase a ticket that lets you tour the 22-acre production facility less than a mile away to see at first hand how one of today's top-line performance cars are assembled. As expected, the museum artfully chronicled the history of these iconic American cars from its early beginnings to the most recent iteration, the Z06, with mint condition examples from every generation on display, spanning 70 years of production. There is an unexpected twist to the history of this museum. In 2014, a sinkhole opened up under the main showroom floor, and 8 of these beautiful cars ended up falling 30 feet down into the void. Some were able to be restored, while others were non-salvageable. These sinkholes are a common feature of caves in the area, Mammoth being the obvious example close by, and prevalent throughout the landscape in this region of Kentucky. Without question, though, the highlight of this day was a tour of the huge production facility, which was extremely fascinating and highly informative. What an incredible experience it was to see an operation of this magnitude function seamlessly, rolling out about 120 completed special order cars each day. Suffice to say, I would unquestionably recommend this added value feature of a visit to the Corvette Museum. Well, good morning folks. It's March the 18th And this morning I am heading towards western Kentucky, northwestern Kentucky, where my focus today is the John James Audubon Museum and Nature Park. This has been the focus of the initial part of the trip. The journey so far, taking me through Mammoth Caves and through Bowling Green, has been with the thought in mind that I'd end up here. And so I'm very much looking forward to today's visit, because Audubon himself, who came to America around the turn of the 19th century, is a fella who decided to chronicle and draw and paint all of the birds of North America. And his works are just simply exquisite, and I've admired them for such a long time. So finally having a chance to come here and see some of these pieces in original will be very, very stimulating, I'm sure. For those of you unfamiliar with James Audubon's distinctive work, here are a few examples, including the Kingfisher, which I incorporated into my van's decor and which directly influenced the color scheme of the cabinetry. The museum collection is housed in a beautiful stone building with delightful grounds and surrounded by Audubon State Park. Well, I must say the trip up to the James Audubon Museum was fantastic. So worthwhile. And the documentation of his life and seeing some of those prints for real was just great. I mean, such a master of line, color, and just bringing those birds to life after he had shot them, of course, to paint them. But what a remarkable man. And to see his life's legacy like that laid out was just fantastic. So really glad I came here, and just presently enjoying the tail end of a lovely wee hike through the state park that surrounds the museum, and gonna be heading on very shortly. So we'll catch up soon. Land Between the Lakes, abbreviated to LBL, was not a place I had heard of before. In fact, it wasn't until I was leaving the Audubon State Park and consulting the map in detail for the day's drive ahead did I notice this rather obvious green feature amidst a sea of relative benign landscape. I came to find that this green space on the map was, in fact, designated a national recreation area and filled with options for places to stay and activities to pursue. So I've been out here riding all day in this place called Land Between the Lakes recreational area, which is a bit of a national treasure, and it is situated between Kentucky and Tennessee. It's like a peninsula, a finger of land that points upwards from Tennessee, and is bordered on each side by both the Tennessee and the Cumberland rivers, which were both dammed to form this area. So unfortunately some folks lost their land and their heritage, but it is really quite a remarkable place, and it has so much to offer. And truthfully, today, these last 2 days that I've been here, March the 20th, early on in the season, cold at night, but beautiful through the day, 50 degrees all day today, and fantastic riding conditions, and there's nobody here. I've seen nobody back here today. It's been amazing. So highly recommend this place to come to. Scenically beautiful, lots to see and do. There's horseback riding, hiking, fishing, you name it. This little place is a gem. So this area is referred to as the Winding Stair National Recreation Area, and it is part of the Talamina Scenic Byway that extends from Arkansas through into Oklahoma here. But this is March the 25th. It's part of the shoulder season. It's before school lets out. It's before spring break. I passed very few people all day. So coming up here, you've got the place to yourself. It's a great time of year to be on the road, these shoulder seasons. But if you can manage to get away, you've got the place to yourself. I mean, I associate Oklahoma with lots of flat, open farmland area. And that's been my experience to date of Oklahoma. I have never, ever seen an aspect like this. And we are presently in southeast Oklahoma. This is an extension of a ridge line that I've been following for the past few hours through part of Arkansas into Oklahoma, and very shortly I'll be dropping back down to the valley tomorrow morning and continuing on westward. But for this evening, I couldn't have picked a nicer place to spend a night. So let me just take you around here a little bit and show you what we're looking at. We've got the sun going down very shortly, but there's my van back there, right on top of the mountains. You've got pine trees, you've got oaks. It's a very harsh environment up here generally. And that's why a lot of the trees are somewhat stunted. The valley below, things are obviously growing to their full natural height. But up here, the trees can be as little as 10% of their mature size down below. The soils up here are a little thin. It's a rocky kind of mountaintop with fairly steep sides, so water runs off rapidly. There's a lot of wind blowing up here generally, so the evaporation is rapid. So as far as trees growing up here, it's a fairly harsh climate, but absolutely beautiful. I am really impressed with this part of Oklahoma.